Joshua Wilson,
do solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear or affirm
that I will support the Constitution
that I will support the Constitution
and laws of the United States
and laws of the United States
and state of Washington
and the state of Washington
and the ordinances of the city of Lake Stevens,
and the ordinances of the city of Lake Stevens,
and that I will faithfully and impartially
and that I will faithfully and impartially
perform and discharge
perform and discharge
the duties of Civil Service Commission member
the duties of Civil Service Commission member
according to the law
according to the law
and to the best of my ability and understanding.
and to the best of my ability and understanding.
You did great. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Welcome aboard, Josh.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Way
thank
better
you.
than I did, Josh. Way better than I did. Can you say that again?
That's a pretty
No,
low
Brian, you
bar,
did
isn't it, Brian?
All right. Well, I've got to hop to another meeting. So have a good meeting. Welcome, Josh. And
See you,
I'm
Kelly.
around if you have any questions.
Thank you,
Bye,
Kelly.
Ryan. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Our next item is the, did you want to talk about this,
Yeah.
Julie?
Yeah, sure. So every year, the law firm of Foster Pepper puts on a civil service conference for commission members, chiefs, any other interested staff regarding civil service. In the last couple of years, they've done a virtual conference. The physical one is often in Wenatchee. But this year, I just wanted to let you know, I got a notice of a save the date for a virtual civil service conference, September 20th to 22nd. And it's tentatively scheduled for 9 to noon each day. And if you're interested, I can make sure to keep you up to date, or I will anyway. And as the date approaches, just let me know if you're interested in participating. The conference is generally the same information every year. It's just kind of training on why civil service exists. There's an attorney that kind of talks about best practices and gives a good overview of what civil service rules should contain, and tips and suggestions for keeping up to date on current laws. So it's always a great training to attend if you have the opportunity.
Now, Julie, do you attend this?
I don't typically attend every year because the information is typically the same, but I would encourage our commission to consider doing that in the future. Again, it's a pretty big time commitment,
Yeah,
but virtually sure makes it convenient. So if you have an opportunity to do part of the time, or I think 3 days is a little much. I guess I'm thinking they're going to probably reduce that to maybe a day and a half. A day to a day and a half, but we'll see as it gets closer.
do they have a schedule of events or itinerary at all? yet?
They will. It's not out yet.
You'll keep us up to speed on that?
Yeah, I will. Yeah.
All right, thank you, Julie.
Julie, I'd be interested in that just so I can get better at this.
All right, great,
Same.
great.
Okay, our
Yeah, me too.
next item, our action item is to approve the minutes for the April 28th meeting. Have everybody had an opportunity to review those?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
I make a motion that we accept the minutes as written.
Josh, you got to second it. You're new. You got to do it, man.
Yeah.
All right. Seconded.
Awesome.
Motion has been made and seconded. All in favor? Aye.
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 Opposed? All right. Good job, Josh.
You're killing it on day one.
The next item we have is the certification of our community service officer eligibility list. And I see we have one person on there. Are there any questions or comments about that list?
And for you folks attending virtually, I know you haven't seen it yet, but
Oh,
it consists of one person. So
And what was this for, Julie? I'm sorry.
well, I'm sorry, Cindy Brooks retired,
Okay.
and it was pretty much her role.
Okay. Gotcha. Thank you.
Yeah, I didn't have a chance to get this to you. The oral board was yesterday, so or, Tuesday. So
I like that we're moving fast. I love it.
Yeah, yeah,
Yes.
what we try to do is when we know we have an oral board schedule, we try to schedule a civil service meeting within a day or two thereafter so that the chiefs don't have to wait too long to move forward.
Very good.
And Julie and I were talking earlier, this is Margaret, someone I had an opportunity to work for when I was volunteering when they were here. She worked in the office and I think she'll do a wonderful job there. So I make a motion, we accept the eligibility list as written. Is there a second?
I'll second that one.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Oh,
Aye.
all right, thank you. The next item, we asked Chief Young to bring us up to speed on the recruiting and staffing update. And this was something that came out of our last meeting because there's so many different steps in the process that they could give us an update at each meeting on where we're at on our current staffing plan.
Yeah, good afternoon and welcome Commissioner Wilson. It's going to be great working with you. Congratulations. So first things first, Commissioners, as you know, Margaret Cooper was selected as our community service officer, and what that is, I'll give you a little bit more information on the position. So as you heard, Cindy Brooks retired March 31st, and with the new laws that were passed in July of 2021, we had to kind of recraft the public or the PSO, the police support officer position. So the police support officer position was a different type. It was almost like a limited commission. Cindy was able to carry a firearm and take enforcement action on criminal violations and so forth. So with the change in the laws, we had to change that up. So now we're going to have the focus on animal control and also some crime prevention type stuff. Margaret will not be able to be armed or handle any of the criminal cases. So she can do the investigation, and at the point that it becomes criminal and she needs a criminal charge, she'll turn it over to one of our officers who will then forward the criminal side charges. So that just kind of gives you a little bit more insight as to how this position came to fruition. So with Margaret being selected for the CSO position, it will leave a vacancy for records. So we plan to go back and see if there's anybody on the current records list that we can pull and send to background. If we have anybody on there that meets our criteria, we'll be able to send them into background and then hopefully give you an update by the next meeting. Well, unless it's next week after another item I'll talk to you about in just a second. So with that being said, we had Megan Bickley start as a records technician just this week. She was sworn in by Mayor Gailey on Tuesday, and she has been working since. So that is one position that we've hired for and actually is now working. So now coming into the police officer processes, we have Matthew Walters, who has accepted his offer of employment, and his first official day as an entry level officer will be June 16th. That leaves us with one other entry level candidate currently in background. Right now, public safety testing is telling us that we're looking at probably 6 weeks or longer to just get a background investigator assigned. And then depending on the nature of the candidate's background, like how many places they've lived, if there's military service, college, et cetera, I mean, just a number of factors, that background can take anywhere from 45 days to about 3-4 months. And that also includes those times when, let's say Commissioner McManus gets a reference letter and says, hey, will you fill this out on Jeff Young and let us know what kind of a person he is? If he gets it sent back right away, that's great. If we got to wait for that letter, that of course delays the processing time. So we're doing what we can on that. We're also trying to do some of our backgrounds in-house, because we have a couple of people in-house that are able to do the background investigations, and we're going to test out moving forward which way is going to be faster, whether it's contracting with public safety testing or another company, or having one of our own personnel do that. So that leads us into the next point, which is on Tuesday, we are going to be holding some lateral candidate oral boards. And so we'll be asking for another meeting right after that to certify that list so we can push forward with our potential lateral candidates. Now, that being said, we have 5 police officer billets that are currently vacant. We are doing what we can to recruit from various agencies. We have just recently revised our recruiting flyer. Chief Bezizzo posted on his personal LinkedIn page. I'll be posting it onto mine. The city is now going to be operating a LinkedIn page as well for communication with potential applicants, and that's going to be across the spectrum. So it won't be just for PD. It'll be for anything in parks or public works, that kind of thing. But we are doing a number of different things on our end to try to increase the traffic, if you will, with people trying to look for other police officer jobs. We're going to extend our reach out of state. Julie and I have had extensive conversations on where to advertise, maybe doing some strategic advertisements. Again, we're going to be going out to the military bases, the colleges, and we're going to really try to, just amplify our presence. We do have a couple of swag items that we have ordered. You'll see the dog tag as soon as they come in. We'll make sure that you guys see those, and it has the Lake Stevens logo on there, and on the back there's a QR code that takes them directly to the application site. So we got some pretty cool things that are in the works right now. We're hoping that increases our presence and attracts more people to us. So with that being said, I will be quiet and let you guys ask any questions that you may have.
I got a couple of questions for you, Chief. And again, this is coming from the point of my tiny little brain, so don't be offended by any of this. But when you're talking about the background checks, right? I know those are very tedious, and to your point, can take a long time. Would there be any role for us as commissioners to play in just putting outbound follow-up calls, emails, et cetera, out there to help that process along as volunteers and as commissioners?
That's a really good question. I don't know that would really help because, here again, we're dealing with, the applicant's background. So of course, the process where we have, some sort of a testing phase.
Right.
For the entry level, we're obviously getting a written test and a physical ability test, but for our laterals, when we're pulling them right to us, we get the testing phase. So in our case, it's an interview, then the chief's interview, and then we come to you for the certification. At that point, we get them, scheduled for the ride along. We get the confidentiality statement. We start them with the background. So if the candidate is super squared away and super prepared, in other words, when they get that personnel history questionnaire, if they get it filled out and they get it back to the background investigator quickly, that can really start the process. And then simultaneously, we're doing some other things in the background, like the polygraph and some of the other things that we can do while we're waiting for that background to come back. So you know what, let me talk with Commander Thomas and Chief Bezizzo, and we'll see if there would be any role that the commissioners could play. My initial thought is, I don't know. It's going to really depend on that particular candidate and how quickly they can get it back to us.
Yeah, I think the reason I ask that is because I know everyone's stretched thin all the time, right? I mean, I'm sitting there volunteering, I'm already stretched too thin, but it's something that I think that, if we've got the time, it would be more of, I would think of the tedious stuff of, hey, we sent out these letters to these 10 people on your list. We've only got 3 of them back. Maybe we could reach out and just kind of ping them and say, hey, I'm a civil service commissioner. I'd love to see you get that background information to us as soon as possible, help your friend out, right? That kind of thing. But just throwing it out there as if there's an opportunity. The second question I had for you, Chief, is I saw the post on LinkedIn that the Chief put on. Is there a way we can echo that? So I'm a power user on LinkedIn. I got 9,000 followers. I got to reach across the United States. So I used to do recruiting for a sheriff's department, military, things like that. And I work in the military segment within a large e-commerce retailer. You can guess which one that is. And I actually run their DoD division. So it would be a way I can get it into the DoD community on a broader scale. If someone's in North Carolina thinking about the Great Pacific Northwest, this, be a way to create visibility. So I know that when we do events like this, they call it an echo page, right? So I would just take the same exact posting and post it on my LinkedIn profile and share it with my group. So just something to think about if that's a possibility.
Yeah, that would be great, I think, because it'd almost be like a retweet or something like that is what you're
Yep.
talking about, right? Yeah, so
Yep.
I would imagine that we could either have you connected to, the chief or me or something like that. And then when we post something, then you can definitely, tag onto that and
Okay.
amplify it a little bit. The other thing we could possibly do is give you guys the materials so that you can post it on your stuff too. I mean, we're only talking about like a PDF flyer or something like
Right.
that.
Yeah, and that would be ideal. I mean, I can repost what if I see the chiefs and repost it,
Mhm.
but to share it with my network, I'd have to create a post to share it with my network, and that would,
Right.
it's just not most of those people have no idea why they're blindly following me, but there's a ton of them out there. So, but I do have a lot of inroads in the military community and the recruiting offices and things like that. So if I post something on LinkedIn, it generally gets picked up and viewed, multiple times over. So
Yeah.
just kind of like as you're putting, like a repeater, right? Just make it go further and longer. So love to be able to help out with that if that's a possibility.
Absolutely, sir. And you know what? I'll ping you on LinkedIn as well.
Okay.
And then that way we can start doing that. Because I think I might have shared with you once before when I was working in another municipality here in Washington, I had posted a similar recruitment thing on my own personal LinkedIn page, and we got almost 700 hits off of that one
Yeah.
post alone. So I know exactly what you're talking about, and I'm glad we have that common picture there. So
Yeah, absolutely. I think it would just help. It can't hurt. That's for sure. Especially with the challenges we're
Mhm.
facing with recruiting. Every department is, right. I saw Sheriff Fortney had to make some hard decisions last week, right? I think you saw that post with
Yes.
him. And my heart goes out to him because that's brutal. But I think everyone's facing it. It's not something that's new to any department. So I want to make sure. I thought the layout was awesome. The new PDF is great. I mean, it really highlights that you got the Marine Division. You got all these different things that really. You want a variable career. You don't have to go to Seattle anymore, right? Or one of those bigger departments. We got some homegrown good stuff going on. So I think it would be a good way to attract folks.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
And we're going to, keep doing those types of things. One of the other things that we're planning to, as a recruitment thing, getting some bumper stickers that have the joint LSPD with the QR code again. We'll stick them on all the back of all of our patrol cars, and maybe see if we can get some of the other city vehicles to help us out with that too.
If they won't cooperate, Chief, I can sneak in there at night. I know where Public Works parks everything. So
All right, we got a mission, sir.
there you go. I like it.
Well,
Thank
How
you.
many positions are we trying to fill?
So right now we have 5 police officer positions that are currently vacant. And then, of course, what we have to do is we have to kind of forecast how many other potential vacancies we're going to have. So right now we've got 3 or 4 potential vacancies. So we're trying to plan for that. And as soon as we know for sure what direction those vacancies are going to go, or those potential vacancies are going to go, then we'll start adding more to it. So, I mean, right now we've got 5 open positions with, again, 3 to 4 possible.
So the 5 plus the 3 and the 4, that's the 8 we talked about last meeting. Is that correct?
Yeah.
We talked about being short 8 by the end of the year.
I believe so, yes.
Okay. I attended a public safety meeting down in Marysville yesterday, and this Snohomish County Sheriff was there. And, they're having just as much staffing issues as we are here. And he spoke in depth on that. Any other things, Josh, Brian? Incidentally, I saw the page on Facebook that was put out this week that showed like an advertisement for Lake Stevens police officers. And I was really encouraged that you have now a moving allowance on there. And it said like 20 to 25,000 DOE, but then the moving allowance, and that to me would be a big attractive thing to get people to come here.
Yeah.
Yeah, we hope so. And we've got a couple of other things that we've spoken with city leadership about that we're going to hopefully try to advance forward and get those things in there too, because some of the things that we've discussed with the city leadership will definitely help us to attract and retain that other talent. Because we know we're going to fierce competition.
Yeah.
One other thing, Chief, is now I've read that where the state academy has a backlog and they're really struggling. Is there any word on when they're gonna be up to speed?
No, we've been actually trying to find that out. Sergeant Barnes is our scheduling coordinator. So with Mr. Walters, we were trying to figure out when he would get a potential academy date, and they have nothing for us yet. Hopefully within the next couple months, because they are starting to try to restaff the academy. They're changing the academy format from a 5.8 to a 4.10 because they're having trouble getting TAC officers down there as well. So there's some challenges there. So we're trying to work through those things. I hope to be able to give you some better answers here in the future. But unfortunately, we can't even get good answers from CJTC. We had 4 different responses to another question this past week. 4 different people gave us 4 different responses. So it is what it is.
It's not just the corporate world. It's public safety.
It's
good to know.
Now, it used to be that Seattle, being probably the largest department in the state, had their own academy. And then they went to the state academy down near Burien. Are any of the other larger departments thinking about going to their own academy to maybe get some more officers online?
No, I don't think so, because there was some talk about that, especially on the eastern part of the state, where they wanted to maybe start running their own academy. There was a lot of pushback from the CJTC on that. So I imagine it's going to just be the one academy in Burien.
So I know, Chief, that it was probably, gosh, man, now I'm explaining the gray hairs on my chin here, but it was probably about 30 years ago. I know that Snohomish County actually had a class that went through, and I think they did it for about 2 or 3 years because the academy down in Burien was just jacked. There was so many out. It was that back when, the late 80s, early 90s, massive hiring sprees that were going on. We're looking for 400 or 500 officers in the state. So I'm sure that also would enter into the budgets and the shortfalls that the county's having. I don't think they could probably do it unless they had enough candidates to make it worth their while. And maybe we could jump in on it. Who knows? But we'll have to see.
Yeah, and that's even if they could get permission to run that academy from
Right.
CJTC.
Yeah.
Okay, the next
only
item
have-
on our agenda, I'm sorry.
I was just gonna toss in one last thing. I was taking a look at the LinkedIn post. It's got a fairly short introduction regarding what the role is. It may also be helpful to give a little bit more understanding about the city or the population that may be served. That may be helpful in people that are looking, and not just have such a real short, sparse intro to the role. It's just my 2 cents on it.
Yeah, that's a great idea. So, and thanks for bringing that up. So if we were to create a brochure that someone can click on, and so basically we've got the flyer that's just like that quick teaser, like, hey, look at us, up to this much money for a hiring incentive and relocation incentive, and then they could click on for a brochure that gave like a 2-3 whatever page, almost a fold out or trifold or whatever, that would give a little bit more, like Lake Stevens is a community of this and this number, here's the different things. Does that sound like something that you're talking about, or would that work in?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of them talk about just at least, what we're looking for, what the quality of the candidates might be. Tell maybe a little bit about the city and how large of a city we are, and give some just basic information that personalizes it, that makes them say, this is somewhere that I want to go.
Yeah.
I think
Whereas
when
it's
set up, it relies
feels-
on you to click on that link first, but you're right, we should put
Yeah.
that in ahead of time so that they
Well, I think
or even more.
Yeah, I think, and if they know that the city's growing, right, there's a lot of growth that's going to happen in the city over the next 10 years, because growth in that, when you're working into a role like that, you're thinking, am I going to be stuck on patrol for the next 30 years? And some people might love that, but they also want to know that there's a career path when they do get there and start their career. Is there, we talked about, like, Chief, you can get on the boat, you can do the scuba diving, you can do all these different things that the department does that are kind of unique to Lake Stevens in a lot of ways. Not every city, like, I don't think Linwood has a dive team anymore for, Scriber Lake, but you never know, right? But I think
big selling
yeah.
big selling point. Yeah.
Yeah, so maybe just paint that picture of it's a growing community, just to entice more people to know that there's opportunity beyond just patrol. It's like a good department to enter in to move up. There's a lot of people think like that, right? They just want to know that there's a home for them beyond their first 20 years of wrestling with people in ditches. And then maybe, it's a place where they can go that's not going to be as brutal on them for the last couple of years of their role. So.
Yeah, I
Okay.
completely agree with you.
Okay.
I think the next item on our agenda is our next meeting. And Julie, do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, so as Chief mentioned, we have some lateral oral boards next Tuesday, the 14th in the morning. And I know he's anxious to get that eligibility list certified so they can move forward with the candidates from that process. So we were wondering if you might be available to meet next Tuesday afternoon, anytime after 2 o'clock, or Wednesday or Thursday. It's a little easier to try to coordinate a date and time with all of us here in the meeting together rather than email. So I thought we'd give it a try.
So for me, Julie, next week, as long as it's like maybe 3 o'clock on Tuesday, because I have to go to DC next week. So I land at like 5 something. So I could jump on a call, once I land if the plane's on time. And then I'm going to be tied up Wednesday, Thursday, coming back late Thursday night. So it'll be difficult for me to do that other than that Tuesday, a little bit later in the day.
Okay.
Next week, following week is fine.
And Brian, your schedule and Josh's schedule is most important. I mean, I'm retired, so I can do this anytime.
Yeah, but Ray, I'm always looking to get out of work, so if I got a good reason, like a civil service commission meeting, that just gives me the green light now. I'm telling you. The short answer for me is I'll do whatever I can as soon as we need to get together and jump on it as fast as I can, because I know the sensitivity around the timing. So, but I do have kind of next week's just a travel week. It's just tough for me to coordinate it. But as long as we do it later in the day on Tuesday, I'll be on the East Coast 3 hours behind or 3 hours ahead. So should be fine.
Okay.
How about you, Josh?
So long as it's not between the hours of 5:30 and 6:30 on Tuesday, I should be able to be present.
Okay.
Good.
Shall we go ahead and, shall I get something on the books for Tuesday at 3, and we'll do the same hybrid format? And I wouldn't expect the meeting to take more than 10 minutes.
So that'd be the 14th.
That'd be the 14th at 3.
Could we do it possibly at 3:30, Julie? Only because I think the flight
3:30?
lands at like 5:20, and by the time you get through everything, it might be. I just don't want to cut it close. I don't mind if I jump off the plane and sit right down and jump on a call, but I just want to make sure there's a little bit of padding there in case my flight's late.
Jeff, does that work for you? All right.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I'll make it work.
And Brian, don't get too worried about that if you can't make it. As long as we have 2 of the 3 of you, that's a quorum, and that will pass the motion.
I got to stay undefeated though, Julie, right? I've in all my meetings when I was a salary commissioner, I didn't miss any of them. So I'm trying to trying to show up those city council guys, make them go to their meetings every time,
I can appreciate that. Okay. All right. So the June 14th at 3:30. And I'll send a calendar invite with a Zoom link for that as well.
Okay.
Okay. Is there any other issues?
Nope.
If not, I make a motion that we adjourn the meeting.
Josh, I'm going to defer to you. There you go.
All in favor?
Aye.
Bye.
All right. You guys have a good evening now.
Thanks, Ray.
Thank you.
Thanks, Joe.
Thanks,
See you
Steve.
next time.
Thanks, Julie. Welcome
all.
aboard, Josh.
Thank you. All right. See you Tuesday.
See ya.
Are we still on?